Blink, the power of the thinking without thinking. Malcolm Gladwell. 2. The Locked Door, the secret life of snap decisions. Not long ago, one of the world's top tennis coaches, a man named Big Braden, began to notice something strange whenever he watched a tennis match. In tennis, players are given two chances to successfully hit a serve, and if they miss on their second chance, they are set to double fault. And what Braden realized was that he always knew when a player was about to double fault. A player would toss the ball up in the air and throw his racket back, and just as he was about to make contact, Braden would blurt out, "Oh no, double fault." For sure enough, the ball would go wide or long or it would hit the net. It didn't seem to matter who was playing, man or woman, whether he was watching the match live or on television, or how well he knew the person serving. I was calling double fault on girls from Russia I'd never seen before in my life. Braden says, no, was Braden simply lucky? Lucky is when you call a coin toss correctly, but double faulting is rare. In an entire match, a professional tennis player might hit hundreds of service and double fault no more than 3 or 4 times. One year, at the big professional tennis tournament at Indian Wells near Braden House in Southern California, he decided to keep track and found he correctly predicted 16 out of 17 double fault in the matches he watched. For a while, I got so bad that I got scared. Braden said, it literally scared me. It was getting 20 out of 20 right, and you are talking about guys who almost never double fault. Brad is now in his 70s. When he was young, he was a world-class tennis player, and over the past 50 years, he has coached and counseled and known many of the greatest tennis players in the history of the game. He is small and irrepressible man with the energy of something half his age. And if you were to talk to people in the tennis world, they'd tell you the big Braden knows as much about the nonsense of subtleties of the game as any man alive. It isn't a surprise, then, that Big Braden should be really good at reading a serve in the blink of the eye. It really isn't any difference from the ability of an art expert to look at the Getty cross and know instantly that it's a fake. Something in the way the tennis players hold themselves, or the way they toss the ball, or the fluidity of their motion triggers something in his unconscious. He instinctively picked up the case of the double fault. He then synthesized some part of the service motion and blink. He just knows. But here's the catch. Much to Brain's frustration, he simply cannot figure out how he knows. What did I see? He said. I would lie in bed, thinking, how did I do this? I don't know. It drove me crazy. It drove me crazy. It tortured me. I'd go back and I'd go over the serve in my mind and I'd like to figure it out. Did they stumble? Did they take any step? Did they add a bounce to the ball? Something that changed their moral program? The evidence he used to draw his consciousness seemed to be buried somewhere in his unconscious, and he could not dredge it up. This is the second critical fact about the thought and the decision that bubble up from our unconscious. Snap judgments are, first of all, enormously quick. They rely on the sinister slice of experience, but they are also unconscious. In the Iowa gambling experiment, the gambler stays avoiding the dangerous red deck along before they were actually aware they were avoiding them. It took another 70 cars for the conscious brain to finally figure out what was going on. When Harrison and Hubin in the Greek spot first confronted the chorus, they experienced a wave of repulsion and the water popping out of their head, and Harrison blurted out, "I'm sorry to hear that." But at the moment of the first doubt, they were a long way from being able to enumerate precisely why they felt the way they did. Hubing had talked to many art experts whom he called fakebuster, and they all described the act of getting at the truth of the work of art as an extraordinarily imprecise process. Hubing says they feel a kind of mental rush, a flurry of visual fact flooding their minds when looking at the work of art. One fake buster described the experience as if his eyes and sense were a flock of hummingbirds popping in and out of a dozen of way stations. Within minutes, sometimes seconds, the fake buster registered the host of things it seemed to call out of him, "Watch out." Here is Hubin, one art historian, Bernard Breton. He sometimes distressed his colleague with his inability to articulate how he could see so clearly the tiny defect and the inconsistent defect and inconsistency in a particular work that branded it either unintelligent rework or a fake. In one court case, in fact, Branson was able to say only that his stomach felt warm. He had a curious ringing in his ears. He was struck by a momentary depression, while he felt urge of off balance. Hardly scientific description of how he knew he was in the presence of something cooked up or faked, but there's as far as he was able to go. Snap judgment and rapid cognition take place behind a locked door. Big Braden tried to look inside the room. He stayed up at night trying to figure out what's in the delivery of the tense serve that primes his judgment, but he couldn't. "I don't think you are very good at dealing with the fact of the locked door. It's one thing to acknowledge the enormous power of snap judgment and thin slice, but quite another to place our trust in something so seemingly mysterious. My father will sit down and give you theories to explain why he does this or that," the sons of billionaire investor George Soros had said. "But I remember seeing it as a kid and thinking, at least half of this is bull. I mean, the reason he changed his position on the market or whatever is because his back starts killing him. He literally goes into a spasm, and it's this early warning sign. Clearly, this is part of the reason why George Soros is as good at what he does. He's someone who is aware of the value of the product of his unconscious reasoning. But if you or I were to invest our money with Soros, we'd feel nervous if the only reason he could give for a decision was that his back hurt. A highly successful CEO like Jack Welch may entitle his memoir Jack straight from the good, but he then make it clear that what set him apart wasn't just his good, but carefully worked out theory of management, system, and principle as well. Our world requires that decision be sourced and footnoted, and if we say how we feel, we must also be prepared to elaborate on why we feel that way. This is why it was so hard for the Getty, at least in the beginning, to accept opinion of the people like Hubin and Harrison and Jerry. it was a lot easier to listen to the scientists, to the lawyers, because the scientists and the lawyers could provide page and page of documentation supporting their conclusions. I think that approach is a mistake, and if you are to learn to improve the quality of the decision we make, we need to accept the mysterious nature of our snap judgment. We need to respect the fact that it's possible to know without knowing why we know that accept that. Sometimes you are better off that way.